Welcome to the Love, Sex, and Leadership podcast, where you can discover simple tantric teachings to embody your true power, awaken your soul's wisdom, and live an inspired life as a natural, intuitive, and heart-centered leader. Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Love, Sex, and Leadership. I am very excited to have a dear friend who I've known now for many years and who is definitely, I love a title of kind of the leader of a sexual revolution. She leads with her heart wide open. She is a best-selling author, and she's just a dear friend. And whenever we get together, we were just recalling, even as we talk here, we just laugh a lot. We have a lot of joy and a lot of laughter, and that's generally the nature of our friendship and relationship. So grateful to have you here. Welcome, Laurie Handlers, to the show.
Thank you so much. We did a whole show once on laughter.
We did. That's a great conversation many years ago. I think we laughed for a long time.
We laughed a lot. We couldn't stop laughing. I do have a sign on my door. If I open my door, it says General of the Sexual Revolution.
I love that.
Yeah, if I just open it up, there's like a placard on my door and it says General of the Sexual Revolution. So, yeah.
Well, that feels very fitting when I mention you when I'm teaching, and in different formats. I often describe you as a um, ageless woman who basically is, I think, maybe 75 going on 25 is about the way I often describe it, in terms of your heart, your vitality, your love, your life force that you carry. I love that just this last year I got to witness your marriage with Michael. That was such an amazing, heartwarming day, just to feel the two of you coming together into heart and romance, and really soothed my soul so much to see you so happy and in love together.
Thank you so much. And also, I'm setting a new fad, which is not getting married until you're 75.
That's a great
Like,
fad.
don't rush into it. Why? Why? Um, this is my first marriage, and it's not anything I wanted to ever rush into. So it felt really good to do it at a time when I know who I really am,
Hmm.
different from like worrying about what other people think of me or doing something because my parents wanted me to do it or whatever. I did it on my own terms, like I do most of life on my own terms.
I
So.
see that, and I love that about you.
So I was really glad you were there, and it was lovely. I mean, I even had a good time. Because a lot of times when people are in their marriage, like in their wedding, they're not having a good time. They're doing what everyone else wants them to do, and that wouldn't work for me. So
Mm.
yeah, yeah,
Well, I
laughter is good, life is good on one's own terms.
laughter is good for sure. And I know you just recently came out with a new book, Sex and Happiness, and what's great after, gets better with age. So you
It
had
gets
a
better with age, right?
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about that, because that's,
All right.
I often, when I see, you could say, quote, older people coming to events
Wait,
and retreats, or
I
just out
want to
there
share.
in society, um, there it is. Yes, get it. Amazon.
Sex and happiness, it gets better with age. Someone complained. I'm sorry, I interrupted you. Someone
Yeah.
complained, where is it? That these legs were not legs of a 50-year-old. And I said, what are you talking about? Those are legs of a 50-year-old. So.
Yes.
Anyway, I'm sorry I interrupted you. I was
No,
looking for the
no,
book.
it's okay. My question really is, so I look at my parents, which are right around the same age, and they're
Yeah.
definitely in a very different way, with their physicality, with their body, with their mindset. I love them both dearly, and I'm very grateful for them bringing me into this world. And I'd say you're definitely an anomaly in some ways. I'd love to see more people like with such vitality and youth and sex in their day-to-day life. But why not? Like, why are people challenged with it so much? Like, why do it feel like, is it a doctor thing? Is it people buying into beliefs? Is it a body thing? Like, what really gets people down the most as they get older?
It's all the above. First of all, we've not been taught to really take care of our bodies. We
Mm,
haven't been taught how valuable physical exercise is. They're saying that this sitting, this chair thing, which is so uncomfortable, um, they're saying that this is the new cancer. Sitting is the new cancer. People are sedentary. They're comfortable, and I've always looked when people say I'm so uncomfortable. I want to be more comfortable. I think to myself, wow, the only thing I know that's comfortable is a coffin. Like like you're dead and you're lying there and there's no irritation because it's over. Like there's always irritation. Life is part of like overcoming little irritations or looking the other way or finding a way to redefine them. So I think it's all of the above. I think a lot of it is um, the media, like the Pepsi generation or whatever it was, like was geared towards youth, youthfulness, youngsters, but the baby boomers are the biggest population on the planet. And I'm the beginning of the baby boomers, and your parents must be somewhere in there, like
mhm,
in the middle
mhm,
of the baby boomers or the end of the baby boomers. And we were the generation where everything was just like, okay, what do I want? Boom, I could have it. Click, I can use a remote. Bing, I can, microwave my food. Like everything was given to us and invented as a convenience. And that
mhm,
convenience is like the comfort of a coffin. We're really uncomfortable if we have to do anything. So for me, it's an effort. Every day I get up, I have to stretch, first of all, because I have aches and pains. So I have to stretch every single day. Then I have to move. I have to swim. I have to go to the gym. I have to walk. I have to something every single day. It's not
mhm,
like this body is a gift. If I don't treat it like it needs to be, like walking a dog, I have to walk my body. Like I can't wait until later. I have to do it now. So that's
mhm,
like part of it. And then, having the attitude of I'm never stopping. Like not that those messages that told me that I was going to be expendable when I was 50. I was just going to dry up. I wouldn't be attractive. I'd be invisible to people. I had to change that for myself.
mhm, mhm,
I remember being on a date with a guy. I mean, I was much younger. I remember being on a date with a guy, and there was another guy talking to him. And since we were together, me and the second one ignored me. Like I wasn't hit on a bull because I was with someone, so I
mhm,
was invisible. That was my
mhm,
first experience of invisibility. And then, it's happened to me many times over the years. I'm older than people, so I'm invisible to them. But I make myself not invisible.
mhm,
But it's
mhm,
like I'm not childbearing age, I'm not hit on a bow, I'm not whatever, so I must be nothing.
mm, mm,
So, I don't know. Your parents have good, they're in the whatever they believe to be happening, but it's when our bodies start not moving anymore or not behaving anymore in the ways we want them to, like there's very radical things people could do. And you know me, I do a lot of radical things. So
mm,
anyway, it's a lot the belief system, it's a lot the media, and then it's a lot like, okay, no one talked about this. What are we supposed to do?
mhm,
There's no
mhm,
answers. And
mm,
that's part of my whole Walt Disney thing.
mm,
Like
mm,
Walt Disney told me that I was going to be in a really fancy party dress at a ball, and some prince was going to have to find a foot and put a glass slipper on it. And first of all, he couldn't find me. Like what a dopey prince. And second of
didn't
all,
find the prince.
no. And then second of all, he's supposed to ride me off into the sunset on a white stallion, and we're supposed to live happily ever after. And we have no communication skills. We've never been taught that. We've been taught algebra, geometry, earth science, a foreign language. But if you're the love of my life, I have never been taught how to communicate with you. But
Mm,
I can do
mm,
geometry. Who cares about geometry? I
Mm,
care about the most important relationship in my life and I have no skills and I'm supposed to live happily ever after with you. And we had no sex education too. So we don't talk about that either. So, your parents or anyone's parents, mine too, regular folks never looked at that, never
mhm,
questioned
mhm.
Cinderella. And my tagline is Cinderella's getting laid maybe once a quarter.
Yeah, that's not so much.
We don't have the sustainability that we need to
Hmm.
to to make anything last. And
Hmm.
if it
Hmm.
does last, it's probably more comfortable and comfort, and it's kind of dead.
Hmm. And for someone who is older, that's like, okay, I want to awaken more of my eros and come into my sexuality and step into these places more. Like, obviously, I know this is a lot of how you support people, which I absolutely love. And like, is it possible? Do you think that the discouragement is too strong for people and they just kind of give up? Because that's what I see sometimes. Is people are like, I can't do this, and they just give up.
I can't do that. I'm too old for this.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
or I can't dress like that.
Hmm.
I have to dress my age. What is
Hmm.
that? Um, I think some people give up. I mean, I created ISTA over 50 for people over
Hmm.
50 to come and take a class on sexuality, spirituality, and shamanism. And the over 50 crowd is wild when they finally get there. I mean, they aren't as burdened when they decide to be free, they're not as burdened as younger people. They're
Hmm.
not worrying
Hmm.
about whether their body matches up, whether their breasts are okay and somebody else's breasts are bigger or smaller, or somebody has a larger penis. Like they don't care about that anymore. They're just coming to say, what am I going to do for the rest of my life? My
Uh-huh.
kids are grown. I'm not in a relationship. I'd like to have one, or I don't want to have one. I want to be free. And the over 50 classes they're a hoot. They're fabulous. I had
So what?
somebody in I had somebody in one of them ask for like 7 minutes in heaven kind of thing.
Hmm.
Like do
Hmm.
anything to me. Everyone can come in the whole group and do anything to me that they want. I'm putting on a blindfold and I have no boundaries. And I said, no boundaries. And the person said, yeah, I don't want any boundaries. I just want everyone to come over and take pleasure and give pleasure on my body for 7 minutes. And then at the end of and all kinds of things happened. I don't can't go into big descriptions, but I'm going to say that people took some very big risks with this person. And
Uh-huh.
then at the end of 7 minutes, everyone scattered, and the person jumped up, took off her blindfold, and said, I don't know what I waited for so long in my life to do something like that. She said,
Amazing.
What's gonna happen to me? So what?
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
I'm not afraid of being the class slut anymore. I'm not afraid of what people think about me anymore. I'm not afraid of my own fears anymore.
Mm.
Like,
Mm.
just do to me whatever you see fit to do to me creatively, and like I'll have a blast. And she did.
Mm. So what I hear in that is actually with an older crowd, once a certain point comes and they find that liberation, actually the limitations are a lot less because there's not the children and the thought around views and body and everything else. Is just a whole lot more freedom. To get there might be a little bit more challenging, but once that kind of bubble is popped, there's a lot more expression that comes through.
Yes, so much and
Mm.
so fun. I mean, like just unabashed fun. So much less uptight about fitting in,
Hmm.
worrying about what everyone else will think if I say this or I do this or whatever. Like, just, I already raised my kids. I already was successful in my career. I already was whatever I was. Now it's time for me to realize that pleasure is my birthright.
Hmm. Hmm.
So, yeah, fun.
And so to someone who's listening to this, who they feel their body's getting a little bit older, wrinkly, and they're like, oh yeah. That's just Laurie talking about all her wild excavate, all her wildness. Like, that's not for me, and I'm just gonna, I can't do this. Like, what do you say to a woman or man like that to really like help them remember and help them actually just have the confidence even to show up to something like that, and to get out of their own box, because it can be a really thick box they put around themselves.
It can be. I say, listen, one, if you could have anything you want, what would it be?
Mm,
What do you want? What did you want that you didn't give yourself? Are
mhm,
you able to give that to yourself now? Come and play. It's an open invitation.
mm,
I do say that to people. What do you want if you could have anything? And then I say, it's never too late as long as you're walking and talking.
mhm,
Nothing's too late. I had a guy, I mean, my oldest two participants, one is in her 80s. I mean, I think at this point she's probably 84. And I had a man, 82. He walked with a cane. It was really difficult. We were in Mexico and they built the steps of the place like Mayan ruins. I mean, like so many steps going up with no handrail. The
mm,
following year, I said, "Listen to the venue. My participants are over 50. They need a handrail. Those are scary steps." People would they would go arm in arm up and down the steps together because the steps were the scariest part.
yep.
Um, but people in their 80s are coming, not loads of people in their 80s, but definitely people up to 80s are coming.
Mhm,
So from
mhm,
50 to 80. And my father took, so my father was different than most fathers. My father took my Tantra class, my beginner's Tantra class, which was a 3-day weekend. He took it in New York City when he was, I don't know, 82
well.
or something. Yeah. He's in a video that I did. I needed an extra man in a
Mhm,
video that I was doing like back in 2004. And so I have my father captured on video doing all the tantra practices. He
wow.
because when my mother died, he said, "What am I going to do?" I said, "Well, you should come to class."
Mhm,
So he did. And I gave him the homework. I gave him a homework assignment of self-pleasure for
mhm,
21 days, like masturbation for 21 days to like learn how to do ejaculation choice.
mm.
And my father came back to class on day 2 and said, "I did the homework. I liked it, and I can't believe who assigned it to me."
My daughter. Ah!
I mean, no
Amazing.
one ever gave him permission before to touch himself.
Hmm, hmm. Yeah, it's such a permission granted field. Our sexual education we get is so poor. And that's, look at this younger generation now and the level of pornography that's so widespread and inside of people's minds and bodies and hearts, and what their turn on is needing to be is just an entirely different universe compared to even from when I was younger. When I found my dad's Playboy magazines or Hustler
Yeah,
magazines, and now
yeah.
it's like fast streaming, one after another video online. It's really the level of detrimental effects that will be to the brain, to the eros, and to the body. I don't even think we have any real inkling on how much it's going to impact everything.
Oh my God. When I was doing my podcast, I had a guest who told me that at 18 he started taking Viagra to go to clubs, and by 23 and he was addicted to porn, and by 23 he couldn't get an erection anymore.
Hmm, hmm.
So from 23 until 28, 5 years, he had to like be in therapy and do behavioral things and whatever to get back his natural ability to be sovereign in his own body.
Mhm,
So yeah,
mhm,
that's just one person who is willing to talk about it.
mhm,
I know there's hundreds of thousands out there who are afflicted like
Yeah.
that by
Yeah.
their own doing,
Hmm. Hmm.
you know.
And the other piece that love to speak about here, especially 'cause I know you work a lot with couples and relationships, and you were saying couples as an endangered species, and just the impact of porn on that as well, and just how endangered species not only in communication, but the intimacy that's still there in the bedroom. And I'd love to hear just a little bit more on your thoughts with how couples can start to bring more joy and happiness into the bedroom, into their lives, and what's alive for you in that frame.
Well, it's amazing. I like Michael and I work with on like in three areas. One is self-love, two is love of the other, three is love that manifests. So that's the way we work with couples. And then we work on communication, fearless communication, exquisite touch, and oh, I'm forgetting the third one. But we teach them how to stop building up resistance and resentment with each other, like how to dissipate that. And we do that through these things, fearless communication and exquisite touch. Oh, we teach them rituals.
Mm,
So it's to build with each other as opposed to take away, as opposed
mm-hmm,
to rob each other from things just based on the fact that what I said, happily ever after doesn't exist if you don't have any skills.
mm-hmm,
How can you
mm-hmm,
be happily ever after if you don't know how to talk and you don't know how to talk about sex too?
mm-hmm,
So we show people ways to be to have communication where the person doesn't hold it against you forever that you said this, whatever the
mm,
this is, like how to say the worst and hardest things to each other inside of a ritual where you get to do it as many times as you have to do it to clear everything that's building up.
mm-hmm,
Because
mm-hmm,
mostly I'd say people start to build resentment when they don't speak their truth.
mm,
Like if I'm in a couple with you and you do something and I let it slide, I hated it, but I let it slide because like after all, I'm supposed to just unconditionally love you and accept you. Of course, the thing you did pissed me off.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
And then I just it festers if I don't
mm-hmm,
say anything. So
mm-hmm,
most of the stuff that starts to get in the way is undelivered communication or
mm,
thwarted communication. I tried to say it to you. I tried to say, that sex wasn't so great, but your ego, I'm just saying this to you, Aaron, but I don't mean you. Your
yeah, yeah,
ego
yeah.
was so little, it was so disempowered that the minute I said something, you got like, oh, an attitude about it. And so I never dared to try and tell you again. So
Mm-hmm,
those things fester and they blow up and then they cause resistance. Like first there's just some resentment, but then resistance. So then you want to do something great and I'm like, "No, I don't want to do that with you."
mm,
Well, yeah, no, I don't want to do that with you. And then eventually it blows up and I want to get revenge. So
mm-hmm,
we
mm-hmm,
teach people how to say the things and bring it all up, all of it. Say it all, get it off your chest on the table. The per and we teach people not to argue with it, to
mm,
just like hear it and listen to it and how to receive it and acknowledge it and look to see, oh, it wasn't so bad.
mm,
It's not so terrible. It'll be terrible. The divorce that it'll cost you is terrible. But this is not that terrible if you can just like sit with it and have some rules of engagement. So we give
mm-hmm,
people rules of engagement much like boundaries and consent, and we have them clean it out, clean out all the rubble, and then talk about how they're going forward in the future. And we teach
mm,
them, and my thing, yoga boxing. We teach them yoga boxing. Yoga boxing is
right.
good because it slows everything down. It's
Mm-hmm,
one
mm-hmm,
word, one punch.
mm,
And so if I'm mad at you and I'm saying it like this, you don't feel like I'm chopping your head off. and you can hear it, and then you can box back, and it slows some things down. So we've had tremendous success with people. As a matter of fact, you were
Mm,
at my wedding, and it's funny because someone at my wedding said, "Laurie, I haven't seen you in a few years. What are you up to these days? What's this couple stuff?" And I said, "You see that couple, we saved their marriage. See that couple, we saved their marriage. You see that?" There was about 5 or 6 couples at the wedding whose marriages Michael and I saved.
amazing.
You know, just like either they just were together for so long that they had no sexual spark anymore,
Hmm.
or
Hmm.
there was a few people there that had been married for 40 years or more, and they had so much water under the bridge, we had to, like, give them a open the governor and let the steam out, you know?
Let it all. So much stuff. Yeah, I mean that's such a consistent theme, and people, instead of actually confronting situations, I worked with a wide range of different couples, some married for 30, 40 years, some, younger couples, and that
Mm.
theme is there. It's like instead of actually addressing something right away, it's like, oh, let me just build that up until finally it's like, and it explodes, and it's like too much to handle, and then everything else hits the roof, and there's no real direction forward because the nervous system gets overwhelmed.
Yeah, or shuts down. They start to build armor on their heart, which isn't so difficult to do. They
Hmm.
as they close, they start closing, 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 and then they wake up one day and go like, "What am I doing here? Who is
Hmm.
this person? I thought I'd love this person," but really I blame it all on lack of education and
Hmm.
lack of what's important, like valuing what's really important. I don't know about you. Look, I know you were a ship captain. Maybe you used algebra and geometry. I don't know, Aaron. I don't know what a ship captain does.
Some. Well, there was a lot of mathematics on the ship. Yes, yes.
I figured there might have been, but
Yeah.
I don't use it in my life. I use it to see how many men are in a class and how many women are in the class. And if we divide them into how many pairs that will be, that's the most of my algebra. You
Uh-huh,
know what I
uh-huh.
mean? Divided by two or divided into threes, how many groups does that make? That's what
Yeah.
I do with math in my life. And of course, I don't even bother to balance my checkbook. So I I needed to learn how to communicate love.
Mm,
I needed to learn how to communicate, "You're important to me. How do I make this work?"
mm,
And even if I'm not in a closed relationship, like not in a monogamous relationship, every pair is a pair.
mhm.
If I'm poly, every pair is a pair, and I still need to know how to talk to that one that I'm with right now and the next one that I'm with right now. Like it's always two intimate people. How do we talk?
Mhm,
How do we say, listen, it's traumatic the first time somebody says no
mm,
to the other
mhm.
person. In the 70s, I used to teach assertiveness training. And I used to say to people, say no in an early relationship right away. Like, you
Mm.
want to go to dinner? No. Want to go to the movies? No. And they'd say, why do I want to say no when I want to say yes? And I say, just say no so you survive. So then when you have to say no when it's really important, no one dies.
You have some tools for it. Yeah, for sure. So, a couple of questions coming up. One, and then there's someone wrote in a question too as well. But first question, like around this principle of marriage, now that you're married, Laurie Handlers, like how do you observe? Because I see a lot of times I see couples that have been together for sometimes 5, 10 years and get married, and actually the marriage creates a whole bunch of other issues and stuff. And I really see some people that are very dedicated to the principle and to the framework of marriage and everything that it means. And there's a lot of different schools of thoughts around it. Obviously, there's a very clear decision you made about, okay, now is the time I'm going to get married. But how do you feel like this impacts couples? And do you feel like marriage is essential for a couple to have like a deep commitment?
Um, it's interesting that you asked me that. I don't feel like it is. And
Mm,
I was never going to get married. Michael asked me, I mean, he took me by surprise. We were
hmm.
at another wedding and we were witnessing these two people get married. it was beautiful. It was a gorgeous wedding, and we were in Austin. And later that evening, at their reception, he asked me to marry him in a porta potty. So I was a captive audience because it was me that had to go. And so
Uh-huh.
I was just like, "What? You're asking me to marry you? Are you crazy? We didn't have that in our agreements."
We didn't have that conversation in our RBDSM. That's not. You're outside protocol here, Michael. No, 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 no.
We both agreed that we would never do that. So when he
Uh-huh.
asked me, it was really strange for me. And do I think, I mean, I see it's a new fad. I mean, it was, the pendulum was swinging always, like, seemed away from marriage for as long as I've been, since college to now, which is
Hmm.
quite a span of years. Um, but now it feels like at least the millennials feel like they're getting married. Like, I know
Hmm.
loads of millennials getting married.
Hmm.
Um, do I feel like it's essential? No, I don't. What I feel is essential. I do feel like it's essential to feel loved and to feel like I've always felt like it was essential to have a special person.
Hmm.
Like when I was having multiple people, that felt okay, but that felt like, for me, it felt like I was biding my time
Hmm.
until I found
Hmm.
somebody I really, really cared about.
Hmm.
And when Michael and I met, there were other people that I had interest in, and there were other people that I was seeing, and some people that I was having sex with. And I noticed when they came to visit me, like, I would look at my watch. I'd be like, "Oh, when is this going to be over?"
Hmm.
It
Hmm.
shifted
Hmm.
for me. It really shifted for me because I felt like the way Michael met me was different from the way anybody else ever met me. And
Hmm.
that felt a little bit like, and it may have still been Walt Disney's Cinderella stuff. I'm willing to attribute that influenced me tremendously. And I don't know anyone who I grew up with, or even anyone around the world. Walt Disney influenced everyone. I
Hmm.
don't know anyone that didn't influence. So I feel like when I met Michael and he met me so powerfully, I felt like I met my match, and I didn't feel
Hmm.
like anyone else
Hmm.
um, met me that way. And then I wasn't interested in being with anybody. I mean, one time he said to me, "We have an open relationship, and you're not seeing anyone." And I said to him, "I know
What's
that."
wrong with you? You need to go fuck other people, Laurie.
I said to him, "I'm bored. I'm bored with other people now."
Hmm. Hmm.
So he went, "Oh," I said, "I'm not telling you what to do. You do whatever you want, but this is the way I feel." And
Hmm.
then eventually he started to feel like that too. Like, it
Hmm.
wouldn't there was no manipulation going on
Hmm.
between
Hmm.
us. We were just
Hmm.
like open and honest and straight about it, whatever it
Hmm.
was. So I feel like being loved, I feel like being loved, being seen, being cherished, feeling special, feeling respected, feeling met are basic human needs now more than ever, because so many people are scrolling and they're swiping and they're doing these things that were never in the world before. And that doesn't make people feel very good. The
Hmm.
dopamine from Facebook likes isn't as exciting as being met by another human and
Hmm.
feeling
Hmm.
like, wow, this person has me. They get me.
Hmm.
I just feel like that's a basic human need.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, beautiful. Well, what I really heard in what you were sharing is that a point came that you recognized in being met that you were able to actually fully choose and allow yourself to be fully chosen, and there was a joy in that, and almost a freedom in that in of itself, because the door was open, but there wasn't a desire to necessarily walk outside the door. It was actually to deepen with the one that you were with. So yeah, honoring you
Yeah,
and celebrating that.
thank you. I mean, that's really what it came to. I didn't effort at it. It just kind
Mm.
of, it unfolded that way, and never, I mean, I mean, when we met, we both very unlikely candidates for each other.
Hmm.
I'm like this active person. He's more like a couch potato. I'm, you know, I travel all the time. I'm out there in the world. He's more like secluded and untrusting of the masses and the crowds and whatever. So we're like, our values are so, some of them are exactly the same and some of them are so different. And the fact that we chose each other surprised us. Also,
Hmm.
I'm older than him. I'm 21 years older than him.
Hmm. Hmm.
And and he was like, I can't date anyone my mother's age. And I said, well, I think I'm older than her. You know, it turns out I wasn't, but like he doesn't, I mean, he like there's no question about how much he loves me. There's just no
Mm,
like no
mm,
question in my entire being, in any cell of my body. Like
mhm,
he resisted it and then he just grew to love me.
mm, mm. Beautiful.
Also, I didn't try to manipulate him. I didn't try to get him to be any way other than what he is. So,
Who he is. Well,
yeah.
I love that you say that, because that's, yeah, that's the area I think I see a lot of couples, suffering, is trying to make the relationship something it's not. And I think the question around that is, when you see couples coming in and one of them has been cheating, or doing things behind the other's back, like, do you feel in those situations there is a place for people to, I mean, I think there's always a place to come back into some level of harmony, but are the tears and the scars out when that happened for couples, like, where is the repair that's possible? And or is it just like that, the decision making of that person actually saying, no, I'm going outside this relationship because I'm not actually being fulfilled? Or is that just animal? Yeah, curious your thoughts.
Oh, it's so different. Oh my God, that's a lot.
Mm.
Well, first of all, I'll quote Michael.
Yeah.
Michael says everybody needs a little strange.
Perfect. Love that. Love that.
So, so that's like the bottom line of that. And can things be repaired? Yeah. First of all, I can't like I would coach people not to try and manipulate another person to be something that they're not.
Hmm.
Like to
Hmm.
deal with what's so. And they'll grow if they choose to grow, or they won't if they choose not to grow, but to try and subtly manipulate them like Michael's not my project. I'm
Hmm.
not his project. I didn't go into it going, this person has potential and now I'm going to try and unlock
What
the
an
potential.
amazing potential this man has. He's so good. I should just see how great he can become. One day he could be so good.
If I just
Amazing.
love him enough, if I
If I
just
just
love
love
him
him
enough.
enough.
Yeah,
Right.
that's the wrong. I would caution anyone from that. That's not
Yeah.
the right attitude. No one should be your project. And then men have the same one. It plays out a little differently. Women have this man has so much potential. I'm just going to unlock him through my love. And men have I'm going to save this woman. I have a heart on when a woman is in distress. There's a damsel in distress, and I have to rescue her. And I'm going to make her. Yes, I'm going to make her good. Uh, no, those things don't work at all. At all. Like it's better to be alone. It's better to be single than to try and make somebody your project or rescue somebody. We call that Captain Save-A-Ho. I don't know if you have that expression, but
Yeah.
that doesn't work. Like uh I have friends who they do that over and over and over and over again, and then they wonder why the woman or the women in their life, after they cut them off, they've been rescuing them with money or whatever, and then when the man cuts them off because they realize they're a tool, they've been being used, the woman doesn't ever speak to them again. And they're
Hmm.
like, why my last 5 relationships don't speak to me anymore? Well, you were daddy and you cut them off. Daddy's not supposed to cut them off.
Hmm.
So this is the wrong premise to have a relationship. It
Hmm.
just doesn't work. Um, So I would say not to manipulate, to just be straight who you are. This is who I am. These are my boundaries. These are my limitations. These are the things, these are my values. This is what I love. Let's meet on these. And if we don't have enough of those in common, then it's just a one night stand or
Mhm,
a few night stand, but don't try to make it into something.
mhm, mhm,
It's not something. It's
mhm,
now you're going to try to border collie the person into being something that they're not.
mhm,
Can't do it.
mm.
Doesn't work. But yeah.
And yeah, no, and we've kind of touched upon it a little bit, but these conversations of open relating, I've been in deeply committed monogamous relationships. The current relationship I'm in is more open. It's actually for me one of the first times where I'm more deeply relating and consciously also having other lovers and connections. And yeah, it's almost like trying on new shoes and a new way of communication and learning a lot along the way and
Mm.
discovering and finding the way. And I'm curious, like your lessons and learnings and also what you see around open relating. So that's such a broad framework. And I do see a lot of open relating where one partner doesn't want to open relate and they're only staying just because they're afraid of losing love with that partner. So I guess the question inside of it is like, do you think it can actually work wholeheartedly in beautiful synergy and connection?
Yeah, I absolutely do. I'm not an expert on that. I'll just say I'm not like I'm not the you know the front page of open relating. I'm not like the poster child. But I think it can work. And I think it takes a lot of work. I think all relationships take a lot of work. Like
Hmm.
you have to
Hmm.
roll your sleeves up and dig in whatever format you're choosing.
Hmm.
And communication is king to 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 say, oh, I omitted or I didn't interpret things like I needed to tell you or whatever it is. Those things don't work. My
Hmm.
experience with people close to me, those things don't work. Like everything has to be disclosed, just the
Hmm.
same way as I feel like in my relationship everything has to be disclosed.
Hmm.
Communication is the key to all that. And then Michael and I like to think of seduction as a team sport. So usually there's one seducer in a relationship and the other person is like the pillow prince or the pillow princess. They wait
Hmm.
to get seduced, but no, both people or all the people have to be into the seduction thing. I can, I think it's just I think open relating makes sense. And I think that Deborah Anapol wrote a book, I think her book was Polyamory for the 21st Century. And she
Hmm.
might have written a book called More Love. And I mean, it was right. I mean, we're all so needy of love and we
Hmm.
don't hardly get enough.
Hmm.
So I
Hmm.
think whatever form it takes and how to get it, it's good. It's just that it's gonna like for just two, it's really hard.
Hmm.
So then when you open it up to a pod, let's say of 12 or however many
12. Still big.
however many people you're relating to, it takes like pristine communication, like the
Hmm. Hmm.
epitome of speaking your truth, so that
Hmm.
everybody knows where they stand and everybody knows and nobody's playing games. And I think it's tough.
Yeah.
I just think it's a
Yes.
tough challenge.
So what I really hear in that is there's a tremendous amount of truth, honesty, and transparency. And I see couples sometimes there where their foundation isn't so good, and they're like, "Oh, let's just try open relating. That will make it better." It's like, I don't know how well that's
Not
going to
so
work.
much. Not so
Yeah.
much. Listen, other people say, "Oh, I know, we're having a problem. Let's have a baby."
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
Or let's buy a new house, or let's,
Hmm.
like usually when I used to work at Landmark, we used to say, "Ever notice how people's solution becomes the problem?" So like there's a problem that's never dealt with, and then we say, "I know, we'll do this." and they have a solution, and then the solution becomes the next problem, and then
Mm-hmm.
the solution to that becomes the next problem. So yeah, I don't know if open relating is the solution for everybody. I don't think it is. I think it's really good for therapists, you know.
There's lots to work on. There's lots to
I
work
think,
on.
yeah, I think there's like a lot of therapists who are engaged these days because so many people are have issues with it. It's very difficult to pull off. I think
Mm-hmm.
any relating is difficult to pull off. Parents and children, lovers, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Amazing. And to the new young girls watching the Walt Disney
Oh
movies
God.
and seeing the Walt Disney movies,
Wait,
what
I have to do
instead.
a hand scream. Emotional release on camera.
Yes, yes. Well done.
Um, don't listen. I mean, don't buy into it. You cannot get the prince without having communication skills.
Mm,
And the prince cannot get you without having communication skills. And he didn't even know how to find the foot that was missing the slipper. Like that already shows something.
mhm,
You need communication skills, and you need to know, you need a format for how to talk about sex.
mm,
You need
mm,
to know how to talk about what you want, what you don't want, what you won't tolerate, what you would love. You need all of that. And nothing in our background gives us that. All they tell you is how to prevent pregnancy and how to prevent getting STIs. You don't know the least thing about talking about it.
mhm,
And you need to
mhm.
get that as a skill, as something that you can be open about before you can relate. And this fairy tale is just that, a fairy tale.
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
met, that Walt Disney met with the government met with Walt Disney and told him things that they wanted programmed into us, going down a conspiracy rabbit hole now. But yes, there were messages that television programs gave us starting in the 50s, and he
Mhm,
was a big part of it.
mm,
I used to have women's groups where I used to put on the song "Someday My Prince Will Come," and we used to dance with each other as a waltz. And I would say, "Okay, that's the end of this song, and that's the end of that dream. Like he's not coming because he isn't. There isn't one. And should
mhm,
he miraculously show up, he's not going to be trying to put a slipper on your foot. He's going to
mm.
have communication skills."
He's gonna be able to have a post game report after good lovemaking, right?
Exactly. Exactly. What was the best part of the game? What was the worst
Mm,
part of the game? Where were the fumbles?
yes.
Yes. Exactly like the Monday night football recap. Yes.
And he's able to actually talk about these things. So all you listening, that's a great thing. Have a post game report. It's something we do a lot in the bedroom as well. Actually, especially in this relationship, she really, that was something that she brought in a lot, and it's beautiful. It's been amazing to really
Yeah.
have that because it sees, and sometimes I found even for myself that there's little things, and I was like, oh, I'll just let that slide. But actually communicating that with love and presence and awareness, it's made the intimacy, more deeper and more profound. So, yeah.
So, yeah, and if you're having trouble with that, then you should come see Aaron or myself. Like we know how to tell you how to have that conversation. That's what we do. That's what we're in the business of, improving your sex life, but it improves your whole life.
Hmm. Hmm. Tell me about that. How does it just I hear people saying that, and I hear like I say it myself. So, you know how
Yeah.
you improve in the bedroom improves the other areas of life, but actually like on a physiological level, like where does that relate, especially for those brains that are questioning that.
So, sex isn't just about sex.
Hmm.
Sex is could be just about sex, but it isn't. And um, there's a few things. When we have sex with another person, when we run sexual energy on our bodies, where we release chemicals that our brain needs. So we release dopamine, endorphins, serotonin, and oxytocin. All of those things are needed in our bodies and needed in our brains. By the way, for people aging, whether you have a partner or not, you need those chemicals in your brain, like on a constant basis, which is an argument for self pleasure. These are free and they belong to us, and we have two of them. So, so we need the chemicals. So on a chemical level, sexuality is really important for our bodies and for our lives. On a communication level, sexuality plays a really big part in us feeling valued and loved and acknowledged and met and seen and felt. And on a self-expression level, we need sexuality to express our desires. And again, like uh, just making sound and doing breath and doing movement the tantric way, it makes us more open. And sexuality is the center of our creativity. So for me, the way I look at it is, if we are not using our creativity, then we are not happy.
Hmm.
So the
Hmm.
reason I wrote the books, both books are called Sex and Happiness, is because sex creates happiness when we use our creative life force, not just to make babies, but to create everything, to create our communication, to create our ideas, to create our businesses, to create our thoughts. All invention, all creativity comes from the sex center, and we have a frontal cortex. So dolphins have sex, other animals have sex, but they don't have the same frontal cortex as us. We're the only species that can also make computers. We can
Hmm.
make babies and we can have cars. We can make airplanes and computers and big boats. And and if we are not moving sexual energy, then we're not necessarily happy because our creativity isn't being tapped.
Hmm.
So it's all connected, but it's funny that when people come to Tantra, you may notice this, Aaron. People come to Tantra and they want this new kind of like esoteric way of having sex. And they don't understand that that's just the portal to opening up the whole enchilada. I mean,
Hmm.
that's where we come from, which is a miracle. And scientists don't know how to explain it. And
Hmm.
that's where everything else that we invent comes from. That you're on headphones and I have a microphone and we're looking at each other through Zoom. That all can, or whatever we're on. We're not on Zoom, but whatever it is, that all came from somebody's creativity, which is lodged in the sex center, which is the same place we go to have pleasure.
Hmm. Hmm.
So
Pleasure.
it
Yep.
pleasure is our birthright.
Yes. Pleasure, creativity, good hormones, good life, sex and happiness. I mean, it's definitely my intention is to either have self pleasure or to make love every day, and I think I do a good job of that. I'm just turned 41 this last year, and I feel like I'm younger and more vibrant and healthier than I was sometimes at 20. So I feel good. Sex is definitely a big part of that.
That's awesome. You look
Mm.
terrific. It's
Thank you.
unfortunate not closer to 50, so you could come to ISTA over 50, but eventually.
Eventually, you'll be there for sure. Well, we
Yeah,
do
and
have
you'll see.
some.
You'll be there and you'll laugh. You'll laugh your ass off because you'll see how funny it is, and people over 50 are like not so concerned
Uh-huh,
with
uh-huh.
certain things. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's beautiful. I am excited of our. We have a upcoming training in Croatia. We're doing together a level one there with this. Some other exciting ones coming up ahead. It's always a joy when you and I get to be in the same space and laugh. And
Absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
don't come to it if you don't want to laugh. If
No.
you don't want to laugh, then go to something else. Go to something more serious. My thing is to have you laugh while you're looking at yourself in hard ways.
Mm,
Like
hmm.
laugh your way through transformation. It's much better than crying. I mean, you can cry too. You can laugh and cry, but I like to have people laugh at themselves at how seriously they take everything.
Mm, mm.
How
I
serious.
remember a very strong laughing moment after going through the whole program down in New Zealand with Bruce and Hayden, and we were at like our final finale and our big showcase of our soul, and I was just laughing for a long time at the cosmic joke of this crazy universe that we're living in on the spinning rock in the middle of nowhere, and here we are having conversation about sex and happiness. It's like all there is at the end of the day is just to laugh. It's like what the fuck is actually going on?
Exactly. The cosmic joke. Exactly. So yeah. Yeah,
Hmm.
this is good. And hope what was the question, by the way, that somebody wrote in?
Oh, they were asking about infidelity and cheating.
Wow.
Yeah,
That was the
yeah,
question that you asked.
yeah, yeah.
Listen, everything can be repaired. And also, if you take it so seriously, like it's inhuman or whatever, let me just say that it's very human. What I said, Michael said, everybody needs a little strange.
Mm,
It's not, it depends on how big of a deal it is. It depends on how, but if somebody then comes and cleans it up with you, get over it. Like,
hmm.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
it happens. It's happened to the best of us. It's happened to me. It's happened to
mm,
all of us. And
yeah,
it's like, okay, maybe it's too much to ask that a person just stay with one person for forever, ever, 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 like that.
yeah. And just be honest and be honest with yourself more than anything. I mean, that's where I'm at more than anything right now in my own relating is just being really honest and clear. And it's challenging sometimes having conversations that I know, aren't necessarily going to feel good for the other person, individuals I'm relating with. But I know that I need to stay in my own integrity because if I'm trying to do something just to make them happy, or just to say the right thing or make those decisions that I know are gonna make them happier in a sense, but not actually happier because it's just in many ways the illusion of that because I'm not being in my truth, so it's keeping me
Right.
out of my truth, and it's creating an illusion of something I think they want to hear. And the pleasing side of me has done that for way too long that yeah, it doesn't work so well anymore.
Very good. I'm so
Mm.
glad you let that one go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
People are human. That's all. They're human. And inside of humanness, many, many things happen. And there really is no code of conduct. There's just what agreements do you have and
Mhm,
what do you want to create? And if you could have anything, what would it be?
mhm,
And if you would choose this person and this person needs to be with other people, then see if you can make that work.
mm, mm. Yeah.
So great.
Amazing. So, anything else you'd like to share? Any is there
Yeah.
another book on the way down the road,
Yeah.
Laurie? Yes, tell me,
Yeah, there
tell
is.
me.
There's the third one in the series, and then
Great.
there's another one also. So the third in the series is going to be Sex and Happiness for Couples,
Yep.
and it's going to be the story of extraordinary lovers, how you
Amazing.
become an extraordinary lover, and extraordinary just takes a little extra.
Mm,
Like ordinary as regular things like fighting and disagreeing and withholding communication, and it just takes a little extra to be extraordinary.
mm-hmm.
So we're going to be writing a book about being extraordinary. And then
Amazing.
I found a book that I wrote long ago, which I'm going to publish on my website. I have a portal called Laurie's Inner Circle,
Yep.
and I wrote a book called The Owner's Manual.
Mm,
And when you buy a car, you get a manual. It's this thick, but when
yeah.
you get a body, you don't get one. So a long time ago, I wrote a the owner's manual, which is like these are the windshields. This is my windshield and my headlights. And then my heart is the steering wheel. And I compare the body to all the parts of a car. And I talk
Amazing.
about maintenance, how you maintain these parts of the
Uh-huh.
body and what they do and how you operate them.
Awesome.
So I'm going to publish that probably on my Inner Circle portal.
Awesome. I
Um,
love that.
yeah. Yeah, I just found it. I forgot about it.
Mm, mm.
So, I also wrote a book called How to Stop Suffering in 30 Days. And I have to find that. I don't know where that is right now. In those days, I remember like just a lot of people suffering. So,
Mhm, mhm.
I'm definitely
Wow.
for people laughing, not suffering.
I love that you're still continuing to create and laugh and love and make love and share your love and your gifts and all your joy into the world. It's brought so much joy having you in my life. I love our friendship. I love our conversations,
Me
and I
too.
also really love that we can laugh, and I know I can come to you with, serious things, and really get, the quality of your heart and the quality of your experience. And I just love all the different places that we can meet each other. That really means a lot to
Thank
me.
you.
Mm,
I'm breathing that in. Thank
mm,
you. That's
mm,
so good. So
mm.
thanks. Can I offer people a gift?
Of course. Yeah.
If you go to my website, lauriehandlers.com, you will see that you can get a workbook called Mastering Your Boundaries.
Mm,
And so you can get a way to, like, if you're somebody who doesn't know what your boundaries are or you have trouble expressing them, this workbook is simple and sweet and to the point. It gives you a lot of questions about where do you see that you're angry, and where did your boundaries get trespassed, or where didn't you say anything? Who do you need to say something to, and so on. So it's a Mastering Your Boundaries workbook. It's free. It gives you a little glimpse into my inner circle, and just go there and get it. It's so easy, and you might as well have boundaries. That's the big buzzword these days. So go get them.
great. I love that you're offering that. And what a
Thank
great
you.
tool and gift for people. So
Thank you.
thank you for all of that you are, and always a pleasure. Loved our conversation, and thank you for tuning in. This is another great conversation in love, sex, and leadership. See you
Thank
next
you.
time. Bye.
Bye.